Ladies and gentlemen, we are live for another episode of the Modern Lending Podcast. I'm your host, Alec Hansen, but you know that. Good to be with you today. If you're noticing, the gig looks a little different back here. What's going on? I'm actually filming live in our studio in our new Honolulu office. Had a huge team join us. I just had to fly out here to meet them, and I'm like, well, let's do the podcast live from their studio. So I just plugged in my computer, and we're going for it. So thank you guys for tuning in today live. If you have questions, as always, throw them in, and we're going to tackle this. Today I'm bringing on an outstanding mortgage professional, a guy named Tim Kelly. Now, I'm staying with my East Coast people. Tim's been in the business a while. We'll hear his story in a second. This guy's a top 1% originator. Absolutely fantastic story about this, how this guy embraced digital, what he did and his choices through the refinance boom into kind of this new market. And this is going to be a fantastic conversation. So without further ado, let's rock and roll. Yes, sir. Tim, good to see you, buddy. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm awesome, man. Thanks for taking time to carve out and pour into other people, bro. I know you're busy, and I really, really appreciate it.
No, absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
So let's just get the basics out of the way for everybody here.
Sure.
You've been in lending for how long?
Since 2007. So just over 15 years.
Yep, which is absolute, like, legit history. Love that. And let's kind of pour into how would you describe your origination strategies and style? What kind of originator are you?
So I would call I'm a white glove originator. Very hands on, working from home. You probably hear the dog in the background.
I love it. No, dude, we're live. It's great. Bring him on the show.
It's just the reality. Yeah. So very white glove service. I mean, we try to be very detail oriented, hands on throughout the entire experience, from getting the lead to post closing. Which has its issues. Being really involved in the transaction, kind of limits you. And but that's how we built our business. We did a really great job for the very first loan we ever did. Knocked it out of the park. That led to the second loan, and then just packed that snowball on top of the mountain and just kind of let it fall down. And it's worked well for us. But now we'll talk about this. But now we're ready to take it to this level and scale what we do.
Well, so those of you that are tuning in for this season, really the objective is to bring on talented originators and not just have them tell their stories, but really understand the tactics and strategies they're leveraging that made them successful, and the tactics and strategies they're leveraging now to continue their level of success and evolve their businesses. Really in the intent that you, the average loan officer out there, would get some inspiration, some ideas, some tactics. And so, I've followed Tim's journey for a while. We've been connected. Obviously, we work together at Loan Depot. But he has an incredible story about what he's gone through and kind of where he's going. So we're going to unpack that for y'all. So Tim, why don't we start in the refi boom we just came through? Let's just start there.
Sure.
Where were you when the refi boom started? How's that?
So I was, I've been doing this in 2007. I started off as a loan officer assistant, and in 2007, being an LOA, you were at the big gorilla at that time. So I really saw what was happening. And I did that for 8 years. So, we talk about mortgage IQ, and I think you talked about this before. I basically spent that 8 years, getting a master's degree in mortgage financing. I've done thousands of loans. And so I've gone through and seen these refinance booms happen. In 2013, I got licensed and went on, and I missed out on a lot of those opportunities because I was saying, I'm a purchase guy. I do purchases. That's what I do. I'm a purchase guy, purchasing their careers. So I missed out, and I didn't take care of my clients. And I would always tell them, like, hey, my job is to help you manage your mortgage. I'm your lender for life. But when that refinance opportunity came, I was there for them. So fast forward
by the way, just to dive on you and interrupt you, because that is not abnormal. I know so many great purchase originators, which is our lifeblood. I know it's very important, and I've said on that my entire career, who absolutely do not follow up with their past customers, take care of them in that manner. So it's not abnormal.
And we would follow up. We would do, monthly mailers and things like that, client appreciation events. But the problem was, I was a one-man show. I just didn't have the time or the capacity to handle the purchase and the refinance. So I let the refinance kind of fall off. But fast forward to 2020, I watched the MBS highway updates every day, religiously. And so I knew what was going to happen, and I prepared it. I set myself up to have conversations well in advance of what was, being forecasted. And I promised them that I was going to be there, there for them when that happened. And sure enough, March 2020, rates 3%. I got, 100 calls in one day, just bombarded and overwhelmed. And so I looked at it, I was like, okay, well, the way I operate my business, being this like white glove loan officer, answering every email, answering every phone call, requesting the conditions myself, like being way too involved. It was overwhelming. But I was like, okay, this is my opportunity. This is a gold rush. I can do really well in this refinance boom.
Fish are swimming.
Build a team, and so I went all in. I went all in on the refinance boom. So I went, normally my normal year was between 30 to 40 million. In 2020, we did under 100. So we basically just, almost tripled our business that 1 year. And there was a lot of sacrifices, a lot of agents, that we didn't do a good job of, keeping them informed what was going on. But again, I kind of had to take a step back to, grow and take, the 2 leaps forward when the market kind of corrected where it's at now. So it's okay. I mean, I know I'm not alone, for us that went all in on the refinance boom and left, some people high and dry, you got to own up to it. And so I think what we want to talk about today is kind of, what I'm doing now to kind of resurrect, to rekindle those relationships. So one thing that I did, I was at my previous company for 9 years, and I changed companies. I came over to Loan Depot in 2021. I knew we would have a lot of cards being shuffled, because the refinance boom saved a lot of mortgage companies.
No doubt.
It saved a lot
of podcasting we could do on that topic.
Yeah. And so I kind of, again, kind of understood what was going to happen, was going to come, but I knew if I wanted to grow my business, I had to go to the right spot that was going to be able to handle that. And so we made the transition to Loan Depot. But the way that, we were doing our business, you guys being one of the largest lenders, you guys know how to close loans. And the way that I was coming in, trying to micromanage the process, I was really just causing a lot of barriers along the way. So it took us a while to kind of learn the right way to originate loans, to be there where you're needed and let your processor, 14 year kind of in. So it took a while. And then once we kind of figured that out, the next thing I needed to do was kind of like build a brand. And that's where, we're talking about like the social. I was like, okay, well, I'm stuck in my house. Like I have not left my house to go out on the networking business thing, and probably under 15 times in the last years. I mean, like COVID, guy that I loved, sitting at the couch playing video games. So I was like, I got to stay home and I'm saving the world. I was like, all in, done, no problem.
No problem.
So that's what I did. And then, I see people start going out and having lunch with agents, doing things like that. And it's like, okay, so I can't do that yet because of, health concerns that I only had due to COVID. I wasn't going to put them at jeopardy, just to go out and have lunch with an agent. So I was like, I got to go all in on social. Social is where it's at. I can be there, anytime they pull up their phone,
24/7,
get on their computer. Yeah. So I made some big shifts in how we were doing social media, and really just kind of went all on that, building the brand. And now, that I'm going out, to these networking events. Like I've never met agents before. And I'm like, hey, I'm Tim. And they're like, oh, I know who you are, because they've seen me on social, and it's powerful. And so, we're just getting with it. And I think, that's part of the plan that we have to resurrect, what we do is use social, connect with people, and then get out there in the real world. And it's so far working pretty well.
Let's unpack this journey, because it's significant, and there's so many people are going to be in a very similar position and thinking about their own careers and looking at the market. So when you say you decided to go all in on social, I want to unpack that for everybody. Like, what does that mean? And there's a journey there. So like, which platforms are you starting out in? Long form, short form content. What were you physically doing? And then in the beginning, not to what you're doing now, but like, what was the first things you started doing?
So the first thing I started doing, was it was probably like 2017, 2018. I was a grinder. I would work 7 days a week and just outwork from competition. So I was in the office on Sundays, Sunday night, 9 o'clock. And what I would do is I would, pull up my phone. I would take a video in front of me of my company's sign. We had a beautiful sign, and I would. This is kind of like ridiculous, but I promise you, it's going somewhere. I would dance in front of that sign, like whatever the number one song was, and I would do Sunday Fun, right, and I would do whatever the number one song was that month or that week. I would do a little dance for it. Sometimes throw in a holiday scene. Star Wars came out. I was in my Jedi gear, swinging a lightsaber around. And I kid you not, I would then go out because at that time I was doing a lot of networking locally, and everyone would be like, "Hey, I saw that video with you in the lightsaber." That lightsaber video was, literally until, probably this year, it comes up, at least once a month when I meet somebody still.
So good.
Yeah. So I was doing the TikTok dancing before that was even a thing. I'm a trendsetter like that. And, but that's how it started. Just getting in front of the camera, getting very uncomfortable. That's just very outside of, who I am. I'm a big introvert, like I said, a couch potato kind of guy, but I knew that if I did something that was totally outside of my normal everyday personality, those people that I'm connected with on social media, that would stop them, be like, that's not them, so they're going to stop and they're going to watch that video and then they're going to talk about it. And that's exactly what happened. So just doing things like that, and then slowly got more comfortable on the camera and started doing educational, longer form content.
But let me unpack something here, Tim.
Sure.
I want you to explain, because swinging a lightsaber around and being kind of, quote, yourself, or I don't want to use the word goofy. That's not, but just kind of like people are terrified of that. Like they don't want to showcase that side of themselves. So did you ever have a reservation about that, or did you just go in and do it?
I just, 100%, at the day, I mean, listen to people like you talk about things like social media and how you have to, be your authentic self and all those things. It's like, I mean, that's who I am. Like, I got my lightsaber right over here. I can grab it right now. And
I know you
do. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's when you think about your avatar of who your client is. Mine is me. My client is young professional that grew up watching the same movies, the same TV shows, so I was just kind of interested in doing that, and also, I mean, you talk about trends. I mean, there's that one of the first YouTube videos to go viral was like the lightsaber guy swinging around his garage. So it's once you get uncomfortable, once you do that and you get uncomfortable, things just become really easy for you. And it certainly was. I mean, there's some ridiculous ones out there, where I got maracas, on one, but it helps and get you break ice, and get you doing, when you start doing other things, dancing is easy. Talking about mortgages, talking about people's financing. I mean, that's where it gets hard because everyone's got their own opinion. Everybody knows I'm about dancer, or whatever it is. So I'm not worried about that. But when I start talking about strategies and things like that, that's where I think self-conscious and think about, okay, well, someone may not agree with what I say. And that kind of prevents you from, going out and they're putting it out. So start with the most uncomfortable thing you could do. And the rest is easy from there.
So Tim, you went over a concept very quickly that I'm going to pull back into on a conversation, because in my mind, it's one of the most important foundational strategies to a social strategy. Yeah, you got me. 2 strategies, which is speaking to your avatar and attracting your avatar. And what Tim said, everybody, was my ideal avatar is me, meaning like I want to work with people who like what I like and think what I think. Tim, where did you first hear that concept of kind of creating content for an avatar? How did you get centered on that?
I mean, I watch, mortgage coach videos, religiously.
Yeah.
I'm sure that came up there, in videos. I know you talked about it before, especially in our coaching, and I mean, there's just so many people that talk about it, and it's a great, one that there's, I can't remember her name, but she called somebody, she was like, we had the old term yuppies, right? And, whatever that stands for. And she's like, the new term today is called a Henry, a Harner, not rich yet.
Yep.
Okay? And that's where I live in DC. We've got great jobs here. It's expensive to live here. So you have a lot of people who have high incomes, but they don't have a large down payment. And so that was me when I bought my first home. I was looking for, down payment assistance and things like that. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to speak to Henry. And that's what every day. So you hear it all the time, but I think it's really important to figure out, who that person is that you want to talk to on social.
And so how does that strategy play out for you? I mean, are you attracting clients that are the Henrys? I mean, are you attracting those people?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And it's kind of, going off the rails here a little bit, but you use social media, and then I would do live events. So I would try to drive people to a live event that I was doing. And so I did monthly first-time homebuyer seminars. So I was using like the Henry conversations, the Henry videos to be like, okay, listen, if you want to dive to this teaching class over here, come check it out. And the truth is, I didn't want anybody to show up to it. I just wanted people to know that I did it, like, again, talking in front of people and those kinds of things. I was like, man, I hope, and I got crowds. I had, a good audience there. The worst was when one person showed up, and I would still do the seminar for that one person, just like, but everybody knew that I was doing them consistently, and no, so it worked really well. And you have to have, you can't just do these videos. You have to have something. I think you have to have something that's going to like take them out of social into real life. And I guess that's like using like a Calendly account to schedule a private consultation, doing something like that. And so knowing, who my ideal audience was, someone like me, I knew that I would want to go to a class and learn, or I would want to like schedule a meeting. So I gave them the opportunity to do those things, at the end of, these videos, these campaigns, that we call them now.
So Tim, this is such a great tactic and strategy. So I want to spend a few minutes on it. I want everyone to buckle up. This is the pen and paper point. Like, this is when you take kind of theoretical things and you put it into action. So, this incredible, Tim, what you're talking about is you're putting out live content. I'm sorry. You're putting out content on social media directed to the avatar that you want to work with, high income, not rich yet, first time home buyers, potentially, in your market, guys that think like you. So you have to hear what Tim said on this. He's like, I would want to go to a class, so I'm going to host a class. Therefore, people like me who want to come to a class are going to come. And then the other part that just is so evident to me that everyone should write down is success always comes through courage and vulnerability. And listen, Tim, it's very vulnerable to put yourself out on social media. No doubt. You can't deny it. No one can deny it. It's extremely vulnerable, Tim, for you to host a first-time homebuyer seminar where no one might show up.
Yeah.
And like you said, dude, one person showed up that one time. You're like, it's almost better if none show up than one.
100%. It was the most awkward hour of that life, but I did it. I went through it, and I can't remember.
How many people have you had come through classes through this strategy, Tim?
So I did that honestly, for years, hundreds, but what I really tracked, I took a questionnaire after, the class, and I would give people, a chance to do that. And I would track people I would track my conversion rate. And so, this is kind of, off subject here, but I'm talking about that I'm an introvert, but again, I push myself out of the comfort zone. That's kind of like a theme that I do in life. And I did stand-up comedy when I first got into the industry, just to get comfortable talking to people. Cause
no kidding,
whatever, you're in sales. Yeah. And, so I did that. So I have a really good live in person. I perform pretty well, right? I can read the audience. I can react to them. And so my conversion rate for having people come to that class was 92%. So if I had a buyer come to my seminar, there was a 92% likelihood that I was going to do their mortgage when they bought. And again, I didn't, I wasn't reading a PowerPoint, I was reading the audience. I was kind of engaging with them, and I would have a lot of jokes along the way. And talk about, being your authentic self and talking to your audience, your avatar. Some agents that came to those seminars were not fans of the jokes. Right. But I did them anyways. And, most likely closed their client, but it hundreds of people came through it, honestly.
Yeah.
Years.
Such an unbelievable result, dude. It's game changing.
Yeah. And then COVID happened, and, we couldn't do the live in-person seminars anymore. And I tried doing it online with a webinar. But again, your jokes don't deliver the same way. When you have like a webinar. So it was bad. The first few was bad. So I botched that idea tabled it for a while. And that's one of the strategies that, we'll kind of revisit later this year, and bring back, because it was very successful.
Let me ask you this, dude, because I get this excuse from a lot of people. So I want to hear your personal experience on this. Putting yourself out there on social. Actually, first, what's your posting velocity on social? How much content are you posting on a regular basis?
Yeah, and this is, we'll kind of talk about this. It's important, every day. And one thing that I did to make it easier for me, and I don't know if you want to talk about this, I just started going live. Yeah. So again, you have a lot of barriers when you want to do video, you want to do social. I got to like set up the camera. I've got to, then I have to edit the video. I may not say the perfect thing.
Yep.
Right. And it's true. Like, you may not be the most technical person, and camera equipment, all those things might be hard for you to do. Editing, very difficult to do it on your own. And, I had a child, and I didn't have time to do all the editing and do things in post production that you would do for your videos. So I think last year, 2 years ago, I just like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go live. I'm going to go test it out. So I went live after I put my son to sleep, so sometimes it was like 8:00 at night, sometimes it was 10:00, but I went live and I did it for 30 days straight.
Yes.
No one, and that's the thing too. And people are really scared to go live, but all of your barriers are removed. And the kind of way that I thought about it is like, if my phone rings, I pick up and I answer the question. Like, what's the difference between me just turning on the camera and going live on Facebook or Instagram? It's the same thing as like picking up the phone and talking to someone. So if I have a question, like, hey, I just answered this question for this person, who called me about something, just turn on the camera live and just kind of repeat the conversation that you just had. And it's very comfortable. You're scared to death to go live, but no one is going to watch you. Okay. No one's going to watch in the beginning. At first, they'll be like, oh my gosh, Tim is live. That's new. But it's like peering through someone's kitchen window. They're going to go in and they're going to leave the room, but they're going to go back later and post. But that, it just, all the barriers, and it really was uncomfortable in the beginning. But now I'm very comfortable on live. The shows are much more well produced, not as good as this show, but we try to mimic it a little bit. But it eliminated all the barriers. So now I have this, 50-minute, video that's out there living on, on all the social media platforms. I multi-stream across everything. That's really been quite, successful. And just, again, getting uncomfortable is just necessary. But after 30 days doing it, it's no different than, picking up the phone.
No. Tammy said the same thing. My biggest fear is that no one will show up to your live events. And
that's okay. Take a photo anyways. Like, you pretend you're talking to someone. I've done that, like we had one where I had no one show up, actually, now that I remember it, just down the street. And I still took a photo being like, hey, I did a class here. And I think when I did that too, I think I was like honest with it. And then I like turned the camera around and be like, and no one showed up. And I got a lot of, like comments, but who cares? The thing is, you want people to know you do it, right? Because that person who's like me, who's a big introvert, they may not want to go to a class, but they know that you teach it. So they're going to like reach out to you privately and be like, hey, I can't go to the class, but can I meet with you? And that's, that's better than the seminars, just having people know you do it.
Tim, too, I have a core belief that the universe bends itself to hard work. And, when you go out there and you start hustling and you start putting out content and you absolutely throw an event and no one shows up, but you're willing to do it and put yourself out there, the universe has a way to absolutely bend around and give you business from that effort. I just believe it. I've seen it 1,000 times from 1,000 top producers. I've seen it in my own life. It's not the one video or the one lunch and learn that wins. It's the repetition and the consistency. So I think that that's just an incredible, comment. And Tim, actually, Tammy's follow-up, because you kind of talked about this, was, did you get a better turnout on virtual? I think Tim's answer was virtual has its own problems.
Yeah. So when COVID happened, I went all in on GoToMeeting. And
remember that
was the wrong move. And so So yeah, I had people register in the beginning of it, but again, I wasn't rehearsed, and it didn't do well. So I would not do live, home buyer webinars. Like, I mean, you can do live, but like, just understand your audience doesn't matter at that point. Don't worry about it. Just do it straight out there. But if you're trying to do like a private event, like, I just didn't translate as well for me. And the conversion rate, let's just say this: 92% in person, like 0 online.
Yeah, I
So
mean, there's such different mediums. Everyone listening, like face to face in person has such a different medium. You have attention. People aren't necessarily multitasking. They can't just disappear without being rude. Like they have to. It's a whole different thing. So yeah, good insight. I think social. I mean, I think the digital is a whole new animal. All right, so back to my question. We got your content frequency. It's daily. Your strategy's been refining. I'll talk a little bit about what you're doing now versus what you did back then, and see let's tease out some more stuff there. But let's go into this topic about internet trolls. So you're posting daily, Tim. You're putting yourself out there. You're swinging a Star Wars lightsaber around. Did the trolls come out to play?
Yeah.
Did you experience any online BS? What was your real life experience here?
So I've been pretty lucky. I don't think I've gotten anything like that bad. I do realize though, I wasn't posting on other platforms. There are platforms where people are a lot meaner, than others. And so now that I'm streaming across other platforms, you do get people that comment that say that, hey, that's wrong, whatever reason.
Yeah.
And you can just go, you can do whatever you want. So you could again, there's like some saying, it's like some will, some won't. So what? Like, you don't have to. We're not going to do every loan for everybody on earth, so some people aren't going to like you, and you can delete the comment, if you want to.
Yeah.
But again, doing, for me personally, the way that, we grew up doing stand-up comedy, I've got pretty thick skin,
Yeah.
It doesn't really bother me much. You can just reply back with kind of like a laughing emoji or something like that. But it, who cares about the trolls, honestly?
I love your personal. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say comments improve your algorithm, and I love your personal, viewpoint on this, Tim. I in my own experience to let pile in there, I haven't found anybody coming after me for anything, and I'm on every platform, and I'm loud and I'm obnoxious, and I have very very specific viewpoints that are, about social and how to use it, and there's been nothing that of substance.
The worst thing I think that's happened is like on YouTube, for example, they have thumbs down button, and you'll get like someone who hits a thumbs down, and that's it. So
Yeah.
Obviously it's just human nature. You want to make everyone happy and have everyone like you, but at the end of the day, the worst you get is a thumbs down. That's not that bad.
All right, so let's dive into current tactics, Tim, and in the same way of like if somebody came to you for coaching and was like, okay, Tim, like what would you tell me to do? What's working now for you?
So the number one thing I think is you got to have your back end straight, right? So if you're out there doing social and you're posting daily, but you're not getting back to a client, or you're not closing your loan on time, you're right. Like you're done. You're gonna lose that relationship. You're gonna lose that client, and they're gonna be like, it's just so important that you have your stuff in order and you can close on time. You keep your promise to the client. So for me, again, I went the refinance boom, built out a team. I could support that team through times like this, take advantage of what we went through. So we post, I think, get back to the question. So now, we post daily. I do live interviews with realtors, again, trying to restructure the business, resurrect the business was the word I was looking for. I was like, okay, well, I see agents market updates, and what they're doing is they're just taking like a screenshot of like what's going on in the market, and they post it on social media. I'm like, that's not that great of a post. So I reached out to an agent being like, hey, why don't we do a live video and you just tell me what's on that? And then I would take that he agreed to it. We did the video, and then I went to the next agent being like, hey, look what this agent and I are doing. You want to do the same thing? And kind of grow from there. So now I'm going to these agents like, hey, listen, these market updates that we're doing, like, let's do them every month consistently. So I have a recurring, monthly call with these agents that I'm adding value to them. I'm sharing their market view with my audience, giving
Yep.
them content that they can use towards their audience. And now we're at the point where that I've been doing it since August. So,
Okay.
5-6 months almost. I have agents now reaching out to me asking if they can do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but like,
No.
I mean, in 6
Look,
months,
six months, bro.
I've had 2 agents. I didn't know who they were. Reach out to me and just be like, hey, listen, I do business here. When you want to have me on your show. And I was like, absolutely. And so you got to just start small, start with a small idea. Hey, your market update, an image, not a great post. It's all about video these days, right? I'll get you on camera, record it. And again, I do it live. So no post-production effort on my end. And that worked out really well for me. So
any cool software tools you're using for the lives?
So I use a program. So I'm a Mac guy. Apple. I got my pen. I got all my my Mac stuff.
You ready to go?
I use a software program called Ecamm.
Nice.
So shout out to Ecamm. If you're a Mac user, check it out. It's great. StreamYard, is another one that I looked into, but again, it was just kind of just Mac fanboy.
Personal
Tim
preference.
just went on Ecamm.
All day.
Yeah. So create a show just like this kind of in our coaching program that we did. It was like, okay, well, I wanted to do a podcast, but it wasn't really like, it wasn't going to drive me business. It wasn't going to like help build my brand. So I was like, okay, let me just start interviewing agents, do the market updates. 6 months later, we got a pretty good system going with that. And then that's consistent. Every month we've got, maybe 10 or so agents right now consistently doing that. And then just, I'm not sure if you want to talk about this, but just 10 days ago, I started daily vlogging.
Okay. Yeah. I want to get to your daily vlog in a second. Let's put the bow on this, the realtor update thing. Cause I think it's really slick and somebody out there could definitely replicate this in their market and try to figure it out. So you'd call an agent who was posting, just to recap, you'd call an agent who was posting a market update and been like, hey, video's the future. Let me send you a link, jump into a live share with me. I'm going to ask you questions and you can just regurgitate the market update that you're posting on text.
Yep.
Is that pretty accurate? That's
exactly how it went. Yep.
And then you get one agent to bite, and then you go to a couple other agents and you're like, hey, here's some examples of what I'm doing with Susie. Are you want to dive in? And now you have a cadence. And so how many agents approximately a month are you doing this with?
I have to check, but I think it's close to 10 right now.
And I'm assuming these agents give you business.
Yeah. So some of them do, some of them don't, but this is how I got in with them. Like
that's right.
Never even said a word to them. Never spoke to them. They didn't know who I was.
Yep.
Up until I started reaching out to them on social. We're getting there, but I'm okay taking my time building a relationship with an agent.
It's a long game.
And it's a long game, right? Especially I think going into the market that we have, because I have such a strong back end. That I know there's going to be something that happens from their loan officer. They're going to drop the ball, and I'm there, and they're gone. So that's kind of how it's always been for me. Again, just having such a strong mortgage IQ, I will sit there and wait for my chance, and once I get it, it's over. But you got to know what you're doing. You got to have a strong back end. So I'm getting business from them slowly, but I don't make that a requirement. I'm not out there saying, hey, if you send me loans, you're going to be on it. I don't care.
Dude, I
want to be introduced to their audience.
You're giving, dude. You're giving instead of asking. You're coming with the solutions to drive business instead of saying, hey, look how great of a loan officer I am. Let me earn you're going to say, hey, no, let me help you do something you're not doing well with no expectations.
Building the brand online, again, who watches those things isn't necessarily the buyer. It's the other agents, right? Because other agents want to know what other agents are doing. And so I know if I have that agent on, all these other agents they're connected to, they're going to see me and her together or him together. And now I have influence, or I have some sort of reputation with all of the other agents they're connected to. So again, when I brought that live story, hey, I went to a live event and big agent I've never even seen. He's like, I know who you are. And it's because of that show that I did with that agent, for 5 months. And so I'm slowly, creeping in.
So
market.
let me hit, and before we get into your daily vlog, Tim, which I think is a fun experiment you're doing, and I'm curious for your thoughts. But before we dive into that, everyone, I just want you to hear this from Tim's language throughout the last 35 minutes. Okay. A consistent social strategy creates connection. It's not just about going viral or getting tons of leads, which are nice and great. And Tim's getting business from that. But the ability to build connections with agents, we're now prospecting them, setting up meetings with them, calling them, has less friction because like Tim just said repeatedly, they say, "Oh, I know you," or "I've seen you," or and all of a sudden now that friction's leaving the business. And this is what brand awareness does. Right. And I know conflating personal brand and brands, and then there's Nike and brands and all that stuff becomes buzzy, but this is what brand awareness on a personal brand level does. It's not just about going viral on Facebook or whatever. That's not really going to happen to anybody. It could, but it's really about this awareness that Tim's community now has of him that's opening more doors and new relationships. And none of that happens without him swinging a Jedi sword around back in the day. Like there has to be there has to be the lightsaber moment for all these other things to happen.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So now daily vlog. Yeah. You decided to do something different. What day are we on?
This is day 10.
Day 10. So what was the inspiration for this, and what's been the experience so far?
This is my 2023 lightsaber moment, and I've always loved, daily vlogs, going back to 2013 when I got licensed. I was like, I'm going to daily vlog because I was like a huge Casey Neistat fan and all the other vloggers at the time. Right. And then I thought about it and I was like, my life is pretty boring. Actually, I sit in front of a desk. I sit in front of a desk all the time. And there really needed much magic to it. So I tried doing a vlog back in like 2017, 2018, and it was like awful. Like they're like the amount of effort that I had to put into it was hard, right? To edit the video, put it together. And then also like, how do I tie in I literally worked 60, 80 hours a week, right? So how do I tie that in and make that exciting? Couldn't do it. So again, social media evolves, right? And you have short form come and kind of take over everything. And then what happened is you have everyone right now using short form to say, hey, I've got a mortgage hack. Hey, I've got a trick. I've got this or that. And when I started doing that, right. I started doing that too, being like, hey, here's a hack. Here's this, here's a tip. But what I started to realize, this is like a couple like weeks ago, you're going to run out of hacks and you're going to run out of tricks. Right. and then all of a sudden that's your job, is to find another hack or another trick that you can record and share with the audience.
Good insight.
Or someone can completely copy what you said and do the same video, right?
Which they do, man. TikTok is full of this.
Yeah,
of a viral video, somebody copies it identically.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing too, again, going back to my avatar, I'm not going to take financial advice from some guy I meet online, right? I wouldn't do it. So I think it's just like a fad. Honestly, I think eventually, maybe my prediction, my thesis is in 6 months. The mortgage hack, financial hack, the tip and tricks, I think that's done, because again, there isn't enough hacks and tricks you could do. So I was like, okay, well, what could we do here? And so again, I don't get my inspiration for social media from other people in the industry. That's the other thing too. A piece of advice I would give to somebody is go outside of your industry and find someone to follow.
I like that.
And then just tie it back into what you do. So again, I love, daily vlogs, and I love a bunch of YouTubers. I mean, that's what I enjoy watching in my free time. Right. So I was like, okay, let me try to do this again. And I'm going to do it in short form, because my life is pretty, normal, not exciting. But I can get 60 seconds of something and just carve my day down into a 60-second clip. And honestly, like I think it's definitely, I think, has a lot of potential. But it's just like anything new. Like in the beginning, the first 3 episodes, the first 3 days of doing it, you have a lot of attention, right? It's new. People are engaged.
Novel. Yep.
Yeah. But then now, I don't think it's happened yet, but now we're like in the middle of a season, right? And so this is like the drop, right, where things get a little bit boring. The story gets dragged on. But again, my theory is that once I get to like, day 50, day 100, I think that's when the attention's going to go back up, because it is about consistency. It's telling people I show up every day. I do this for work every day. I give them a really insight into my personal life, a little bit, which is like my son, and everything, that involved about being a dad. So it's literally about like mortgage life, dad life. And then, when my wife won't critique my videos too much, I'll add her in finally. But, yeah, I don't want her watching the videos and making me, edit her in or edit her out, So right now she's not a character included. But it's also what I also thought about it too, that I thought was interesting too, is I can start adding stories to my daily vlogs, right? So this is new. I'm just in the middle of like kind of testing this out, but like I have a whale agent that I was going after, right?
Yes.
So in one of the daily vlogs, I did one, I think it was like day 3, 4, I don't know what day it was, but I did it. Like I called the agent up and left a voicemail thinking that was it for the rest of the day. And then later in the day, that agent called me back, and I captured this all on video. And so I introduced like, hey, I have this whale agent that I'm going after, and they called me back. What's going to happen next? Right. And so I'm involved. I'm including like these storylines into the daily vlogs, like giving the audience something that they could follow along day to day. And so I'm slowly starting to do things like that into it, and including storylines, because stories are what sell. And when I started to do that, what I realized is I'll have a person watch today's daily, and then they're going to go back and watch yesterday's, and then they're going to go back and watch the day before and the day before. And what ends up happening is like I'm not giving them a hack or a trick. I'm actually giving them like, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is like, what I do, around the house kind of a thing. And I think it's like the raving fans, right? I think over time I'll create, fans, but I'll create like, even more than fans, like just, what I would call like, I call it the mortgage scene is the name of the blog. I think I'll have like maniacs. I'll have, I'll be selling t-shirts, and stuff. Who knows? But I'm giving them an inside view into who I am, and not just like I'm just some guy with a hack, right? And so I think over time it's really gonna, I'm planting big seeds. I think it's gonna sprout big trees.
Tim, let me give you some commentary on this for everybody listening too. I love this idea for several reasons. Number one, people work with people they like, know, and trust. That's a universal truth in our industry. And anybody would never, I don't know a person that challenges that. And so for somebody who out there is thinking, wow, Tim, this is interesting. It's not necessarily super helpful mortgage content. It's just kind of your, vlogging and blah, blah. And, where's the value there? I think a hack might have more value. And I would argue there's directional purpose for both. There's both. People work with who they like, know, and trust. If somebody likes the mortgage hack guy, they're going to work with that. If somebody feels like the mortgage hack guy is a hack himself, they're going to work with, someone who's personal and showing up every day and showcasing some humanity.
Right.
So there's really the biggest takeaway for anybody listening to the conversation we've had with Tim today is there's multiple ways to skin the cat. There's multiple ways to build your brand. But you still have to do it. Abdicating building a brand just makes you invisible, and that's your brand. So you're having a brand no matter what. What Tim's doing is pouring into his and being a student of it and evolving, and that's what winners do. So Tim, I cannot wait to see how this evolves and how the challenges you're going to face being consistent every day for a blog is going to be awesome to see.
Incredibly challenging.
Oh, I know, baby.
Yeah, I know you did 100 videos in 100 days. Yeah, that's kind of the inspiration behind it.
Well, that was just filming, for 1 minute. You're having to compile and all. So I'm in. I'm loving this. So here's my final questions for you. And I love ending the podcast with this kind of stuff. What advice do you have for originators right now looking to level up their game? What advice do you have for them if they're looking to explore social? Share some of your gems here.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts, I guess, just being in the industry, kind of seeing things from a lot of different perspectives. Number one is just, be patient, patient with yourself. You know, you don't need to do 100 million. You know, you could make a career out of this doing 10, 20, or 30, you know. Your life is in phases. So just work the best you can in whatever phase you're in, right? Don't get burnt out trying to chase the big producer in your branch, your office, your company, whatever it is.
Yep.
Find your cadence, your rhythm. And that's going to sustain you, you know, in this career. And then you're going to have a 2020, 2021 come. You're going to have, which could be, you know, another good year or two here in the future. And you're going to be there and you're going to have built something. And the other thing too is, you know, I am so fortunate to have started the way that I did. If you're struggling, just go to someone in your office who's a big producer and just be like, hey, listen, can I, you know, shadow you? Can I be your LOA? I mean, you know, again, don't exit this industry. There's so much opportunity here for everyone. And there's so many different ways that you can make this industry work for you, whether it's in the sales or the other operation side, but you've got to figure out a way to kind of, you know, ride out the storm. So lower, you know, just do the best you can with what you have. You know, don't, you know, if you have someone that you're following that's like out there posting closings every day, if my posts, my daily vlogs, or my things bother you, unfollow me.
Yeah.
You know, don't let that, don't let that stuff stress you out and make you think you're not doing enough. You know, it's okay where you are. But number one thing is you know, you're going to have to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that uncomfort could be for like asking, hey, can I join your team? It could be from like, you know, swinging lightsabers. It could be from daily vlogging. But if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing.
That's right.
Right. So you have to figure out how you want to, you know, get uncomfortable and the rest kind of just falls into place from there.
Well, and Tim, you're a great example of one of my favorite quotes, which is be a student of your own experience. You know, don't just live life and then never look back. Look back, look at what you've done and be proud of yourself, but also go, okay, well, what did I learn from this? What could be better? What could be different? And be a student of what you're experiencing. Don't just let it pass you by, because everything that you're doing, from one video to one vlog to whatever, is a lesson that you can improve upon and grow with. And then to Tim's comment, guys, everyone I've had on the podcast this season so far, and I guarantee next week when I bring on Gary Vaynerchuk, he's going to say the same thing. Be consistent, have patience, and get vulnerable and get uncomfortable. And you'll find that that's where winning happens. Yeah. Tim, any final advice for a loan officer out there, brother?
I got one more that I wrote down that I heard that would be really helpful. And that is,
I love it.
The bad news. Not every agent is going to want to work with you. Mm-hmm. The good news is you can make them wish they had. And so figure out a way. I mean, you know, if no one's knocking at your door, go build a door. You know, and so that's kind of what, you know, the social media is a lot of opportunity for you to kind of build those doors.
Tim, you're the man. Hang out with me for a few minutes after I end the show, brother. I have a couple things to talk to you about. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week live with Gary Vaynerchuk in New York, Wednesday. Peace.